Total run to sleep. We're back. Long hair, very tired. I had to take antibiotics for 10 days, so today I want to briefly talk about stuff that I learned this year in 2025 on student projects, where I pulled focus. Short films are a great learning environment, and I was lucky to spend the last couple of years here in Germany, where there is a lot of short films and student projects going on. Through Crew United, you can find a lot of such opportunities. Paid jobs for the camera department are quite rare, but in the past I've seen quite a lot of ads of paid opportunities for other departments, so you might get lucky. Today I want to discuss 5 topics, and in discussing these 5 topics I want to give out a few tips for people starting out, or maybe professionals considering doing unpaid stuff. I know this might sound crazy, and there is no reason why, if you are working full-time and you're busy most of the year, there is no reason why you should go to unpaid projects. But actually I was quite surprised, because in the past I've seen professionals joining unpaid short film student projects. So you never know. You will be surprised to see how some people just love their craft, and for them any opportunity is good. For me, in part, is the same, but and that's the reason why I'm doing this video today. There are some stuff to keep in mind and to consider before saying yes to any sort of unpaid project and student projects. The 5 topics are conditions, responsibility, communication, pressure, and humbleness. These topics are all linked together. It's all part of the same word. It's all part of the same industry. It's all part of the same craft. The idea is that through these 5 chapters, we're going to touch on different topics and themes that, in my opinion, are very important. So without further ado, let's dive into the first one. The first big one is time. You have to discuss this beforehand. How many hours are we gonna work? You shouldn't go after a certain amount of hours of work per day. And this is very important, because it's very easy to reach 12, 13 hours, and for unpaid student projects, that's not good. I can tell you that. I've seen a lot of different working times, 9+1, where 1 is 1 hour break. In Germany it's different because it's 45 minutes oftentimes. Then 10+1, 11+1, 10 hours running lunch. Running lunch means there is no official break. There's gonna be sandwiches or boxes, which someone from the department is gonna pick from the catering table or craft table, and they're gonna bring it to the rest of the department. Days in film can get very long, so I would say on unpaid student projects you shouldn't be working more than 9 or 10 hours. First thing, ask how many hours are planned, and then say that you don't want to work more than 9-10 hours. And again, stay conservative. Days can get long anyways, even if they tell you it's not gonna happen. But because it is unpaid, and because no one is getting overtime, theoretically, days can get even longer than on paid stuff. So make sure to at least discuss or ask this beforehand. Another thing in terms of conditions you should discuss beforehand is refunding. You shouldn't put any money into a student project unless it is your short film. You're one of the producers, directors, or you're the DOP, and it's your final year project or something like that. But if you're hired as a below the line crew, you shouldn't put any sort of money into this. So always ask for refunds. For example, what I do is, because I have a bunch of belly cases, I'm gonna rent a car sharing or whatever. I'm gonna bring all my stuff to the rental or on location or wherever I need to bring my stuff, and then I'm gonna get my money back for this car sharing. That's it. Most often than not, there is always some kind of budget, because it's impossible to make, it's virtually impossible to make something without any budget, unless it's a one-man band shoot or something like that. So there might be, those 40, 50, 60 euros for you to do your stuff, and get refunded. But that's very important. Don't put any of your money into these projects. That's what I learned, at least. And to close this chapter about conditions, I would love to mention another kind of topic, still conditions related, but already linkable to the next chapter, which is responsibility. Here in Germany, it's quite common for the second AC to drive the truck, the camera truck. On some short films, it is expected the same, either from the second AC or even from the first AC if there is no second AC. Generally, you should be able to say no to stuff. You have to consider that you might be working at the end 12 hours, you might be doing night shoots. It's a student project. There is probably no insurance. Think about everything which is expected from you and consider whether you want to say yes or no to the project. But consider your safety and others' safety before everything else. And with this, from this first chapter, we're transitioning into the second one, which is responsibility. In an ideal world, everyone helps everyone out. But that's not how film works. There are precise responsibilities, boundaries to respect. And I know it could be tricky if you've never been on set and you have no idea what is expected from you and from others. It can be tricky because it does change from country to country. So you might read something about how it is done in the US, but then in Germany it's a bit different. But the general idea is that unless you see someone in danger or someone's equipment in danger, you should just stick to your stuff, to your tasks, and if you really want to help them, you can ask them, but unless that's the case, you should really stick to your tasks and your role. And I want to say that helping out does happen all the time, or even on big projects. For example, carrying other departments' equipment after a scene in a rough location. That happens all the time, and I'm grateful for that. But helping out doesn't mean turning into a multi-department crew member. You should stick to your part of one specific department with specific tasks. So now the other face of this responsibility coin is the fact that once you have responsibilities, you really have to take them. You cannot walk away from your own responsibilities. So you gotta be very careful when you take responsibilities or when specific responsibilities are expected from you. I'll just give you a quick example from my last short film where I put focus. I was told by the DOP that he wanted to do a top shot on a bed over the actors, with the camera going up and down while rotating. So the idea was to put the camera on a Ronin 2, and then the Ronin 2 hang it somewhere on a pipe or some kind of structure. The first thing that I said to the DOP and later to the AD is that I will not take any responsibilities if the camera falls. Even if I wanted to, even if I have some spare wires and stuff, that wouldn't be my job, so I will not take that responsibility simply because I have never done it before. I never had to secure gimbal on a pipe because that would be grip stuff. So with this very, very short and maybe for some stupid example, I just want to say that responsibility is a huge part. Do not take or do not feel like you have to take responsibilities if you do not have the knowledge. Sets can get very dangerous. Some people get very, very hurt or worse, even on short films and student projects. So if it's not your responsibility, leave it to someone else and make sure that's clear to everyone. Moving on to communication. Communicating with others, it's probably one of the essentials of film set etiquette. That's why there are walkie-talkies on every set. Communication is something that I lack in my private life, so I lacked on set for a long time as well. And remember, in 2023, I was putting focus on this shirt, and I had the first AD coming to me for every scene, every shot, every setup, asking me how long it's gonna take. And I was kind of pissed. But then, with time, I realized he was just doing his job. really took me a while to understand that. This year, through these 5 projects, I started to appreciate the first AD, first AC relationship. For those of you who don't really know, the first AD is, depending on the country, someone overseeing the set. He has to know, she or he has to know at all times what is going on, how long lens change is gonna take, how long camera setup is gonna take, how long a company move is gonna take, or how long a company move in 3 days is gonna take. That's why the first AD at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day is gonna go to the first AC very often and talk to the first AC about timing for the next day or for the next few days, because that's also part of the first AD job. He has to plan in advance what's gonna happen in the next few days, along with several other people. Just to close the chapter about communication, because when you work as a second AC, you're not really giving timing to other departments, but you're giving timing to your own department and maybe to the first AC. I never really appreciated this thing as a camera trainee or as a second AC, because that was not really my job to talk with other departments, unless the first AC just delegate and let you do the talking and organization. Most often than not, it's going to be the first AC job to organize and to talk with the first SD. So that's something which I learned this year and I'm really grateful for. Also, thanks to all the first ADs that I worked with this year. The third thing I want to briefly talk about is pressure. On set, there is always a certain amount of pressure, even on short films and student projects for some reason. The thing is, you shouldn't let pressure get to you. And that's the thing that these student projects really helped me with. Because if you manage to tame small-scale situations on short films or student projects, you're likely to be able later on to do the same on bigger scale situations and productions. So it's a very good learning environment, again, as I said before, and confidence booster. But let's just do one step back and consider where pressure comes from on a film set. Pressure, I believe, comes from stress. People are stressed because they want to get stuff done, especially if there is money involved, but I've seen students as stressed as film professionals on big shoots. But the general idea is that there is a schedule to follow. It doesn't matter if it's a student project. At some point, there's gonna be a limit on resources. So resources are somehow limited, whether that be time, location availability, light, natural light. So people get stressed very, very easily. And it's very hard not to get stressed when someone else around you is stressed. It's very hard, still learning about that. It's gonna be a huge learning process for me as well. With these 5 student projects I worked on this year, I really had the confidence to relax more and kind of do a step back and look at every kind of situation, keeping a certain distance. Because I knew somehow that project was not defining my career in a way, or there was not so much at stake as with other sort of projects. So if I had to define in a few words what I learned from these projects about pressure and dealing with pressure, is clarity. Distance yourself from the situation while remaining a little bit unemotional, humble, and focused. And this leads us to the final and 5th chapter, which is humbleness. I'm gonna go through humbleness through 2 different subtopics, which are listening and precision. I cannot stress enough the importance of listening to others. I'm not saying following other people. You can always listen and then make your own decisions and follow your own road and your own path. But at least listening to other people will bring you benefits most often than not. So basically, we were shooting in a pool. We had an Alexa Mini in a Nauticam housing. One of the screws from the Nauticam plate broke into the camera body. That probably happened at the beginning of the day. It doesn't matter. I tried everything that I could possibly try with pliers, mini pliers. I don't really remember. It was 2 years ago. The guy doing second AC for me, which was in the water for most of the day, he came out and came to me, he started playing with Kenner. He basically sprayed the broken screw inside the camera body with a reversed Kenner can. So basically the screw froze was enough smaller that we could get it out. And just like that, by just trusting someone who had never been on any sort of film set before, we managed to get it out and fix the problem. So what I learned there is that you should really listen to anyone. And that's what I did this year. For example, we had Ronin on one of these shoots, and I had no idea how to connect the joystick to the Ronin 2. And I let the second AC, who did it just like that in a couple of minutes. You just let people do. So listening also means trust. You have to trust people at some point. And the second subtopic of this humbleness chapter would be about precision. It's easy to relax on smaller shoots, sometimes even if they're paid, because you just feel like you have everything under control. So you just start chatting to people. You don't really pay attention to stuff, maybe. Maybe you just finish a very long project, so you step into a student project and you're like, how hard can this be? But I think that's a very bad attitude and can actually kill focus. If there is one thing that, for me, probably create an ocean between beginners and professionals, is probably that awareness. Professionals, they know exactly what's going on at all times. It's almost it's scary because if anything on set moves, they will know and they will be aware of it. Whereas other people, me included, because after a while maybe I'm tired, I get distracted, I might lose sight of what's going on, and that's usually when stuff happens. So if I learn something on these unpaid short films and student projects, is that you really gotta be focused 100% of the time. Uncomplicated stuff doesn't mean that attention and focus are not required. What I learned this year is that it doesn't matter if I'm working with an award-winning DOP or not. When I'm on a film set working, I gotta be completely in the present moment and focused. The first short film I pulled focus on was in February, and the last one was now in December. And what I really learned is to check, double check and triple check everything before making decisions, saying yes, we're ready to shoot. I learned not to take stuff for granted and to be open to suggestions. That's probably what would round up this chapter and therefore this whole video. I really hope that these 5 points make sense. If you have more stuff that you would recommend to someone starting out, or if you want to share what you learned in this 2025. Until the next running, filming, or sleeping content. Yo!